Andy, I'm gonna need a lot of coffee today.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Football Friday.
it was a late night last night, and unlike you from, the Monday night or the Sunday night game where you can celebrate a win, I am not celebrating a win this morning.
It's
Um,
tough, right? It's tough. One, Dave, on behalf of America, except for the Notre Dame fans, I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry for your loss to the hands of the fighting Irish. And it does suck to have to fight through. You're staying up late, you're giving of yourself to your team, and you lose, and it sucks. I'm sorry for you on this Friday.
yeah, I mean, Penn State really did dominate the game. And I know you're like, well, they gave up 24 points. I'm like, yeah, but it like if you watch the game, I mean, Penn State controlled the offensive line, they controlled the defensive line. Notre Dame had some good plays. I mean, they had some good drives, but ultimately it came down to Penn State's quarterback. Even when they won the first two rounds of the playoff, their quarterback did not play very well. I mean, he's a junior quarterback. He was contemplating staying, going to the NFL. He decided not to.
Yeah.
That resulted in their backup quarterback transferring. Their backup quarterback who played a bit role in their offense. Um, and and I don't blame that backup for doing it, but the quarterback Drew Aller, he just didn't play well all playoff. Now
Yeah.
they ran the ball extremely well. And I think one of those guys is going to wind up going to the NFL. But at the end, Penn State had the ball with 45 seconds left to try to kick a game-winning field goal. They had a good start to the drive, and then they threw a really bad interception,
Yeah.
and then Notre Dame quickly just turned that around and kicked the field goal. So look, good on Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman is the head coach at Notre Dame. I I hate to say this, but I actually like him as a person, as a
Yeah.
coach. Seems like a really good dude. Has a really great perspective on things. And he'll now be the first African American head coach to coach in a national championship game for football, which is fucking absolutely crazy. Now,
Yeah.
we're going to talk about head coaches as a different segment, but it was a good game, and kudos to Notre Dame. I didn't hate it as much as I thought I'd hate it, but I am optimistic Penn State next year can come back strong for the playoff again. So we'll see.
It's exciting, Dave. I mean, Penn State was a great football team for a long time, went through a difficult period, and it's good to see them back and playing good football. I don't personally care, but I know it means a lot to you. I'm looking at the Notre Dame coach, Marcus Freeman here. I don't know him. He looks like he's young enough to be playing on the team. He looks like I mean, the guy's a young man.
He's 39, Andy. So
That's great. That's great.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, so he's I think I like what I hear from him. I mean, he has a really good perspective. He knows who he is as a coach and where he sits in the organization. So I think it's good on him, and they'll play the winner of Ohio State Texas, which is tonight, Andy. I think Ohio State's playing amazing football, but you never know. It's one game, and so we'll see how that comes up. I do think whoever wins tonight, it'll be closer if it's Texas and Notre Dame. If it's Ohio State and Notre Dame, I think Ohio State will win pretty easily, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it's exciting, right? I mean, at the end of the day, the thing what makes football so great is anybody can beat anybody, kind of. Not college, not as much as the NFL, right? But it's just that one game story, and it came down to the final, few minutes of the game. The Irish got it, but exciting, Dave, exciting.
Yeah, yeah. And I think from a college football playoff perspective, it's been successful. That was a great game last night. Close game, and that's what you're looking for. The playoff games that get the people talking. I mean, everybody will be maybe talking about this game tonight. So, okay, Andy, let's get into our segments because we've gone pretty long on that one to start off. But hey, look, it's I'm on the podcast too. I can talk about Penn State if I want to. So, okay, let's move to from college football playoffs to pro playoffs, Andy. Huge week. Here we go. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Andy.
Yeah,
first weekend, the top seeds do have buys. So your Detroit Lions are off this week, and as are the Kansas City Chiefs. They're off this week. 6 games, 3 days, Andy, starting tomorrow on Saturday. Woo, this is gonna be a good one. Are you gonna be watching every game, Andy?
So I'm telling myself I'm not going to because it's just like that becomes your entire weekend. But I probably will.
What's wrong with
Like, I
that?
mean, it's because I mean, there have been some great playoff games, the last few years, and like the wild card round, which isn't necessarily always great, like it has been really good. And so I probably will watch a lot more football than I'm planning to, at least in some way. Like it'll probably be on whatever I'm doing, wherever I am, even if I'm not like plopped down watching football.
Yeah, I probably will not. Yeah, I'm probably like you. It'll be on in our house. I won't be watching every minute of the game, but yeah, I'm excited to see it. So, Andy, what do you say? You want to go through each of the games here? Let's predict a winner and see where we go.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's
Uh,
do that.
uh,
Let's do
all
that.
right.
It's gonna be
Yeah.
tough. These are tough matches.
Look, there's some games where I think there's some weaker teams here, but it's the playoffs. Everything's on the table. I think there's some good matchups. So let's start with Saturday. Handy, the early game, the 4:30 on Saturday. Los Angeles at Houston.
Yeah.
Chargers are playing great football. Houston's been really muddling around the second half of the season. Where are you thinking on Los Angeles, Houston here,
Yeah,
Andy?
I think the Chargers are playing good football at the right time. I think they've been on the precipice of being a playoff worthy team for a number of years and just couldn't like get over the hump. But look, they've got a strong coach. Everybody knows Harbaugh is a good coach. They've got a strong quarterback who didn't have a chance to shine under his previous coaching. I think they're going to win the game. Right? The Texans are still a good team. It's just been a tough year for them. They've also got a good coach. They've also got a good quarterback. But Stroud hasn't played as well as his numbers were last year. The team just doesn't look as strong. They still play good football. I mean, again in the Lions game, I mean, they had 5 picks on Jared Goff. They played really well in the first half. They can be good. I think it's gonna be a really good matchup that could go either way. I think the Chargers are gonna pull it off. I think timing wise, they're in a better place and they're gonna get the win.
Yeah, I think there's just too many flaws with Houston right now. I think the Chargers with Harbaugh really built a great offensive line.
Yeah,
They're really strong in the trenches. I like the Chargers here too. Pittsburgh at Baltimore. Pittsburgh playing really bad football. Lost 4 in a row.
yeah.
Baltimore did beat them just a couple weeks back. This is in Baltimore on Saturday night, so wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens are wearing their all black uniforms. I like the Ravens here, Andy. Where are you at?
Yeah, same. I mean, look, give Pittsburgh credit. Mike Tomlin will not accept having less than 10 losses in a season. They made it into the playoffs. They're just not consistently, that strong. Like they easily could have been on the other side of the playoff window here. Other teams are right in that contention spot, the same place the Pittsburgh Steelers are. Baltimore, even with their ridiculous 5 losses, can still win the AFC. They're going to win the game.
Yeah, ridiculous 5 losses.
Yeah,
Exactly. A good way to
yeah,
say it. Andy, like there's been a lot of talk about maybe Mike Tomlin, even though he's got a year left on his contract, might not be back with the Steelers next year. That would be fucking stupid if you ask me. I mean, this is a great coach. I get it. He hasn't had playoff success in the last couple of years, but be careful what you wish for when you
yeah.
push out a Hall of Fame coach. Just that's all I gotta say on that. So
David, Kansas City Chiefs years and years ago when we were growing up had Marty Schottenheimer, and they would
yeah.
consistently win 10 or 11 games, get in the playoffs, and just not finish. Look, it is really hard to finish in the playoffs. Like it's hard to be the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, the Steelers have been very faithful to their coaches. Tomlin's the third Steelers head coach. I don't see them letting him go right now. But if they do, he should be coaching somewhere else. I mean, the guy has
Immediately.
consistently won with changes with. I mean, it's not a great team, right? It's not a great team, but he finds ways to win. I don't think he's going anywhere.
Yeah, I agree. All right, here's Sunday. We'll move the Sunday games. 1 o'clock. Denver at Buffalo here, Andy. Yeah, Denver's had a great year. I mean, better than the
Yeah,
anticipated year. Bo Nix has played well. They're outmatched here in Buffalo. I think Buffalo with Josh Allen, who is up for MVP. Look, I'm with Buffalo on this one.
Yeah, same. It's been a fun turnaround for Denver. They're playing good football. They can look in the future and say, hey, we can see us being a competitor. Maybe, I mean, look, there's three teams from the AFC West here in the playoffs, right? I mean, the Chiefs might have some competition next year, but not this year. Denver loses to Buffalo.
All right, let's go to the 4 o'clock game. This is a rematch of the Brazil game, Andy. Green Bay
That's
at
right.
Philadelphia.
Yeah,
Jordan Love's been hurt a little bit, so the question was whether he's going to play or not. It looks like he is a go. Jalen Hurts on the Philly side has also been hurt over the last couple weeks. Ooh, this is going to be a tight one, I think, Andy. But I think the injuries on the Green Bay side are probably a little much. I like the Philadelphia Eagles and Barkley taking over this game here.
yeah. Like the Chargers in Houston, I think this will be close. I think could Green Bay get an upset? They could. Like they could do it, but I don't think they will. I think Philly is the biggest threat in the NFC next to the Lions. I think they're a very strong, very complete team, and I think at home they're gonna win the game.
Okay. Yeah, I'm there with you. Here's a really competitive game, I think. And this is another rematch from earlier in the year. Washington at Tampa Bay. Like, say what you want about Baker Mayfield and his time in at Cleveland, but man, like Baker, that team had 4 or 5 key injuries in the middle of the year this year.
Yeah,
They lost most of those games, but it wasn't because of Baker Mayfield. He kept that team really there, and he's a fighter. I love what I'm seeing out of Baker. I I think in this respect, Jalen Daniels has had a lot of really good. Is another great rookie of the year. He's going to be rookie of the year, I think. But I think Tampa Bay is going to win this one. But it could be, the last drive of the game, whoever maybe it's Jalen Daniels with the win,
yeah.
but we'll see. I mean, that's where I'm looking right now.
Yeah, this is maybe one of the most competitive games. This and the Texans game are probably the most competitive. And the Bucks, like they should win. They did win early in the season by three scores, 37-20. But they were playing really good football in the beginning of the year, right? They beat the Lions in week two. And they've just been a little bit inconsistent. They're fun. I like the team. I like the whole team. I like everything about it. It's just a fun team with a lot of talent, good coaching. Like I like everything about it. Washington's 12-5. Like Dan Quinn and their young quarterback have turned this franchise around faster than expected. They're playing well. I think they've got a real shot, and I think like Tampa probably should win the game. But I think Washington's going to pull it out. I think Washington's going to get the upset here in Tampa and advance to the next round.
Okay. All right. We'll see where that works out. Monday night, Andy. This game was originally supposed to be in Los Angeles, but with the fires and the destruction going on there,
Yeah,
they moved this game to Arizona. Minnesota versus Los Angeles. I feel bad because the Rams already don't have much of a home crowd, anyways.
yeah.
Now it's going to be really bad, I think. But the Vikings and the Rams, man, as much as the Vikings have had a great year, I think this is a bad matchup for them because the Rams, remember that like they just I don't know. This is going to be a really close game. I think the Vikings pull it out, but I would not be surprised if the Rams came through here.
Yeah, I think the Rams' record is a little bit deceiving because they also went through some injuries early in the season. They didn't have their full roster available. They've got a very talented roster,
Yeah.
right? They still have a great quarterback in Matt Stafford. They've got a good coach in Sean McVay. Like I don't know how the Vikings are going to respond to the loss last week. They played real lousy against Detroit.
Mhm.
They fell apart. Sam Darnold fell apart. The Rams are going to come after him aggressively, and I think the Rams are going to be able to pull off this win. The Vikings absolutely can win the game, but I think when it comes down to it, like I did not want to face the Rams in the playoffs. Like they're a team I don't want to play. I think they can win football games, right? They've got a veteran team here that understands how to win in the postseason. I think the Rams are going to get the win over the Vikings and eliminate the Vikings. Great run for the Vikings. Great coaching. Again, surpass expectations by leaps and bounds. But I think the Rams put an end to it.
Yeah, it's good. Look, I love it. Exciting football here. So we got a whole weekend of football. It's gonna snow here starting later today, so we'll
Yeah.
bundle up and watch some football this weekend, Andy. But it'll be good to see where things go from here. on that. So, all right, Andy, let's go to our next topic here. And I mentioned it earlier in the pod with Marcus Freeman. The other part is Penn State's head coach is also African American. So whoever would have won that game last night, whether Penn State or Notre Dame, they would have been the first African American head coach to coach in a national championship game, which I thought I said just 5, 10 minutes ago. That was the fucking stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life because there should have been more. This should not, we shouldn't be 2025 here when this is the first time happening. Um, you made quite a stir this week on your Threads account, Andy.
Yeah.
We talked about it on Monday a little bit when we talked about Jared Mayo getting fired. There's been some other, Antonio Pierce was also fired this week. Doug Peterson was fired too. But from an African American head coaching perspective, Andy, we have an absurdly low number, not just of head coaches, but of defensive coordinators. There are no offensive coordinators that are African American.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, Byron Leftwich for Tampa Bay was a offensive coordinator, but there's been a really low number here. You made a comment on Threads. Care to talk about that a little bit, Andy?
Yeah, I would like to. I think it's interesting to see the responses, right? So I
Yeah.
basically said something along the lines of, for Aaron Glenn, who's getting a lot of interviews, for Brian Flores, who might be getting some interviews, did a great job with the Vikings this year. Again, a big part of their success. Like they better be able to convince owners how they're going to get their teams to the playoffs in one season, because that's all black coaches get in the NFL, right? And it was obviously it was a little bit, sarcastic. It's not true. I mean, black coaches do get shots, and you see black coaches having success. I mean, we talked about Mike Tomlin, we talked about Houston, we talked about Tampa. I mean, there are successful black coaches, and they do get a chance. But I do feel that the standards are higher, and I do feel that some are hired, they like not seriously, and so I made the comment, and you got a lot of views, got a lot of comments. Some folks were like, yeah, I agree, and there were some people that were like, hey, that's bullshit, right? Like, look at these white coaches that were also fired after one season. People throwing out Urban Meyer, like, get the fuck out of here with Urban Meyer, right? That guy had nothing to do with his on the field coaching. That guy was a train wreck. We've talked about that. But the point was that some of these coaches I feel like they're hired to check the block. Like, look, hey, we hired a minority coach, we hired a black coach, but not genuinely given the opportunity. Like, no one expected the Patriots to do anything this year, right? They have no roster. They're playing a division with the Bills, who we know are very good, the Dolphins, who we thought were going to be very good this year, and the Jets, who just brought in a Hall of Fame quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, and had a coach at the start of the season that was going into I think, third year, and they were building with a lot of talent. Like, the Patriots were going to suck this year. Everybody knew that. Jared Mayo comes in, gets 4 wins, unexpectedly, I think, 4 wins, and gets tossed out, right? Like, that doesn't seem like it was a genuine opportunity, right? Same thing with, who's the other team I'm talking about here? Antonio Pierce, right? I question the Antonio Pierce hiring in the first place. Like, I don't know that he was the right hire to start with, but they hired him, right? The players wanted him. Vegas hired him. And again, a shit team. Your quarterbacks are Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. Like, there's nobody on that roster except for Max Crosby and a couple other, offensive weapons here and there. But like, they have no chance. They're division with the Chiefs. Like, the other three teams in that division are in the playoffs this year, right? Nobody expected the Vegas Raiders to be any good, and they weren't. Antonio Pierce fired, right? Didn't have a chance to prove himself one way or the other. And so you can say, well, look, there have been other NFL head coaches, white coaches, that have been fired after one season. And it's true, but proportionally, it's very different. There's actually a good article in USA Today. I don't know Jared Bell, black reporter, writer, and he talks about how NFL coaches face harsher expectations. Dave, just to give a small piece from the article, right? Let me find, he says, of the 139 head coaches in the NFL since 2003, 19 were fired after one season, okay? 13.7%. Of the 111 white coaches during this time, 11 were one and done, so 9.7%. Of the 26 non-white coaches, 8 lasted just one season. Dave, that's 30.8%, right? That's a big difference. That's a big difference. Now, I'm not saying the NFL is racist. I don't think the owners fired these coaches because they were black, right? But optically, it looks really bad when you've got these minority coaches that, like, they have no chance of that. Like, those teams are gonna suck. They don't have anything to win with. They're given one season to turn their teams around. They don't do it. They weren't going to do it. And now you fire him. Hey, we hired a black coach. Now let's bring in a white guy, is how it looks. That's not the look that the NFL wants. And I think this looks really, really lousy, right? And so I think, we lost three minority coaches here, Robert Saleh with the Jets, the two coaches we just mentioned. That doesn't look good for the NFL. It doesn't, again, I don't think there's racism, but for a league that struggled, after the whole Colin Kaepernick, saga, and they've done a lot, their fight to end racism and unity. And look, the NFL is full of minority players, right? It's not a racist league, but it doesn't look good to hire these coaches and toss them out after 1 year. If Aaron Glenn ends up in New Orleans, like New Orleans isn't going to go to the playoffs next year, probably, right? That team sucks too. I hope he gets more than one season to turn that team around. I mean, some of these opportunities are crappy, and then you've got coaches that have been on these really crappy teams that are getting chances. Look, the Jets suck, right? The Bengals should have been in the playoffs. They weren't, right? There's coaches that used to question, like, is this the right guy? And they get the opportunity. These two black coaches didn't get the opportunity. It doesn't look good for the NFL.
Yeah, I want to focus on a word you're saying there, opportunity, Andy. And I think the biggest thing on all of this is like, I think just frankly, African American head coaches are not given the opportunities. There's not the pathway for them to get these places. And then they get an opportunity. I'm going to use Steve Wiles for his example here. A couple years back, they fired Matt Rule as the head coach in Charlotte. uh, Wiles came in, totally changed the dynamic of that team. Now it's mid-season. It's hard to evaluate some of that kind of stuff, but he led that team to a successful second half of the year
Yeah,
despite an atrocious opening. So what happens is the owner decided to come in and change out the head coach. So Matt Wiles, who did a great job there, or like Wiles, who did a great job there, wasn't given the further opportunity to build upon that success. He goes and becomes a defensive coordinator somewhere else. Matt Rule, meanwhile, gets another head coaching
yeah,
opportunity
yeah,
somewhere else, whereas Wiles does not get that opportunity again. And again, I'm looking at players like you hear about some of the head coaching buzzes that goes along, and you hear some of the retreads over and
yeah.
over and over again, and some of these white coaches are not like Lincoln Riley. I want to see him fucking get a head coaching job somewhere else because he has fucking sucked as a head coach. And you're gonna put that asshole in front of a professional football team or another major college for what reason? Show me some level of success. Oh, he developed quarterbacks. That doesn't mean he's a fucking head coach.
Yeah.
And so like there's some like the opportunities are what's missing here. And again, then you have a low number like you've talked about and a high number of turnover there. It doesn't look good. It's not a look that the NBA or the NFL has. You go to the NBA, they're getting up there. They're in the 30-40% range. And again, these are sports predominantly dominated by African American players. So
Yeah.
like you can't tell me that the those guys are not there's just the opportunity that's missing. What I hated on the comments that you were getting, Andy, is you're being accused of race baiting. And like that, it's not about race baiting. It's about like, are we realistically looking at this? And I want to transition this to another topic. But Andy, anything else you want to say on this before we transition? Because it kind of bleeds in here.
Yeah, I would just say, just like I would challenge people to like not just react, right? And a lot of the comments were obviously just reactions. This is the dumbest thing I've ever read, blah blah. I just say, just look at it, try and
Yeah.
look at it openly and honestly, and just understand this. It's not saying that everybody's racist. It's just saying like, are people getting the fair opportunity, an equal opportunity to prove their success and value? And look, again, Antonio Pierce might not be a good coach. I'm not saying he's a good coach, but if you're going to hire somebody, are you really giving them a chance to succeed, or is there maybe a slightly different standard? And you said like some of these retreads, like people are talking about Mike Vrabel, like he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. He was in Tennessee, and Tennessee was like mediocre.
Yeah.
They didn't. I
Yeah.
mean, they didn't do anything, right? They're talking about him like he's the hottest girl at the ball, Dave. Like fuck Mike Vrabel, right? He can sit there and do his little potty squat on the sideline all day long. He didn't win football games. Like he wasn't a great coach. I'm just like it just doesn't look right when it comes across this way. So no, I think it's good. I appreciate a chance to sort of talk to it for the folks that got excited about it. Sorry, it's just deal with reality.
Yeah, so let's transition that here a little bit, and it's kind of similar in some respects. So, Andy, obviously the fires. We talked a little bit about the fires in California, and the terrible situation there. Andy, like what I really looked at this yesterday and the last couple of days, and was like, wow, this is not some like how homes in woods or whatever. Like you see some California wildfires and or some wildfires in general, and it's like the property destruction of people who own properties in wooded areas or in the mountains or something. Andy, we're on the cusp of like major downtown areas, and there have been entire communities wiped out. What has been very disturbing to me on this has been two front. One, people on social media who are reveling that the liberal elite or the Hollywood elite are having their properties destroyed. These actors, oh, this is my chance. Like, yeah, fuck you guys for being your liberals out there, and I'm glad your property is destroyed.
Yeah,
So that's one piece of it, Andy. The other piece of it is the leadership of the firefighter organizations involved here and the first responders here are being challenged openly by some major news outlets, Fox News, by being criticized because they're DEI candidates,
yeah,
um, and this is like at an all-time new low, Andy. I feel like you're going to basically they're saying because one of the individuals is lesbian, they're all women. Like there's a lot of pieces of this here. Basically, you're saying if there was anybody but a white male in charge here, things would have been differently here.
yeah.
And I think that outright expression is something we have to fight against. I mean, this is just bullshit, Andy. You think because a person's a woman, they made certain decisions? That man would have made just as many bad decisions about what's happening in Los Angeles as anybody else. And I
Yeah.
think that implication is we have to fight back against that, Andy.
Yeah, I agree. Dave. I mean, look, there's an attack on DI initiatives around the country, and you can argue for or against those on their merits, on principles, whatever you want. I disagree with that, right? But you can argue your case. For the folks that are arguing right now that these, quote unquote DI hires are screwing up the response, again, just like the flippant remarks of going to war made by some, including the president, who don't take these things seriously, have no appreciation of the magnitude of what they're saying, Dave. Look at the shitbags making these comments on Fox News or wherever else. And these are folks that have never been in the situation for the most part, right? Dealing with an emergency, dealing with a crisis like the horrific multiple fires that are ravaging LA right now, like that is an incredibly complex and you absolutely are going to screw up. You're going to make wrong decisions because you're making decisions in the fight. Like it's very hard. Just like a boxer takes hits he shouldn't take in a fight. Same thing with these responses. Like they're difficult, stressful events. If you've never been in that kind of situation, like when it comes to criticizing it, like shut the hell up during the incident. Like after this is all over, they're going to go back and review this and they're going to find things that could have been differently and learn from it. That happens in every crisis response. Floods, earthquakes, things always go wrong. They're dealing with a very dangerous and dynamic situation on the ground in LA. Again, I think we're up to 6 devastating fires, right, coming from all directions, horrific winds. Like you can't win. Mother Nature, like I said many times, is still the number one terrorist in the world. Like I mean, she wins. She kills people. You're doing the best you can to keep up with limited resources, a lot of frustrations. This has nothing to do with DEI. It's nothing to do with a woman being in charge, a minority being in charge. This is just fighting a very complex and threatening situation. To turn around during the response just to score points and shit on the mayor, the governor, the actual leaders of the response, like screw off, man. Like let them do their job right now. If you're not willing to help, like shut the fuck up and get out of the way, right? But if you want to come in here and criticize somebody in this point at this time, like you're showing your colors and your colors are shit.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Is it if that's where you're going with your coverage, if that's where you're going with your commentary, like, dude, get the fuck out of here. I mean, this is just it's unacceptable. And the fact that we have people who are trying to leverage this for political talking points, is just it's asinine and crazy. I mean, as you mentioned, there will be an after action report as there is with every crisis. There were decisions made 10, 15, 20 years ago that contributed to where we are today. And I think people need to fully understand and recognize that. And it's just it's trying to win political points at the cost of humans and at the cost of real suffering right now.
Yeah.
That's what really just pisses me off.
Yeah,
So,
and you warp people's minds along the way. Like I just saw an article and I saw the post from fucking Elon Musk. He posted DEI means people DIE, right? In all caps. People take that and they internalize it, right? People start to accept this idea. You're going to use this opportunity to advance your fucking agenda. Honestly, like fuck this guy. It's so wrong. Again, by a piece of shit that hasn't actually ever been in conflict, right? He wants to fight fucking Mark Zuckerberg like a gladiator in the arena. He's never picked up a firearm and served any nation that he's been associated with, South Africa, Canada, the US, or otherwise. Maybe he'll go fight in fucking Ukraine on behalf of the Kremlin here. I don't know, but he's never actually been in the fight. And he's never been out there sacrificing himself for the public good, right? Serving the community, right? Just shut the fuck up. It pisses me off because, again, to those that are already hostile to these issues, they're going to see something like this, they're going to internalize it, they're going to quote it, they're going to retweet it, all this bullshit. Like, it's so disrespectful to those that are putting their lives on the line, right? To serve and respond and protect these communities. It just really pisses me off. It's just so disrespectful. And again, it's fucking cowards and assholes and selfish pricks they're doing. And that's got nothing to do with like your political ideology. You're just being a fucking dick.
well said, Andy. That should be the headline for today. Don't be a fucking dick. And, all right, Andy.
Friday, Dave. Where's the good news for Friday, man?
I know. I tell you
This has
what,
been an angry week.
the good news, Andy, is it's going to snow here on today. Later today. It's going to be a winter wonderland for probably about 12 hours here in Charlotte, but we're going to have a lot of fun with it, Andy. I'm going to get outside, maybe make a snowman. We'll see how that goes. But there's got to like, yeah, I just realized we like two of our three segments kind of fucking sucked.
Yeah.
Like suck topics. I'll have to do better for next week, Andy. So,
No, they're
but
they're good. They're good topics, Dave, and these are important issues. It's just unfortunate that we live in a time where this kind of hyperbole, this kind of hatred is what's celebrated, and the media just sort of like going along like, hey, yeah, it's cool. Like let's talk about this. Did DI cost people's lives? It's just the times we're in. The media sucks. Like social media in many ways sucks. I'm glad we're talking about it because like I think we've got to counter these messages that are absolute bullshit, right? And challenge things. So no, good, Dave. Good topics. We've had a couple aggressive topics this week. I think they're good topics. So pat on our own backs, Dave. Pat on our own backs.
yeah,
Happy
yeah, go
January.
pat on our backs. Yeah, that sounds good. Oh, all right, we'll do that. All right, for
Dave,
those
what's
watching.
happening? Dave, what's happening next week? I think you get old next week.
Man, I do get old. Hit the big 5-0, Andy.
Yeah,
Hit the
yeah.
big 5-0. So
Officially at the top of the hill.
I'm yeah, it only goes downhill from here, right? Is that maybe that it? Is
I'm
that what
aiming to 120, so I see we got. I'm aiming to be 120 years old is my goal. So I'm saying I've got a little bit more of that climb, but we're getting up there, man.
my body feels it, I'll tell you. All right, Andy, we'll find some more positive topics to talk about. We haven't done a list in a couple in some time,
Yeah,
Andy. We
yeah.
may need to pull in some list here or something. So open to ideas on that one.
All right,
So
all right. I
all
like
right,
it.
with that, Andy, watch some football this weekend starting tonight. 4 straight days of football, college tonight, then 3 days of NFL.
Yeah.
Catch up and we'll talk about it on Monday, Andy. So I'll catch up with you on Monday.